We'll just put Flurry's things over here, Twily.
Totally.
Mashed peas, her favorite.
And diapers. Extra diapers. Oh, and backup extra diapers.
What exactly are you implying here? A Flurry of Emotions is an episode about the one thing that everybody loves to do, babysitting. Because that doesn't sound like a pain in the ass, right? Right? Alright, let's just take a look. Twilight is assigned to visit a group of sick kids at the hospital with snacks and a storybook, which seems to make for a complicated schedule. But then Cadance and Shining Armor show up, asking Twilight to watch over Flurry Heart while they go to an art exhibit. Twilight thinks she can manage her schedule while babysitting Flurry Heart, but being the little troublemaker she is, she puts her in a series of situations that distracts her from getting her schedule done. All while Cadance and Shining Armor are constantly reminded of their daughter while looking through, art, I guess? For those of you who remember my review of The Crystalline, you may recall that I wasn't too fond of Flurry Heart because of how the episode treats her like a plot device. And the story doesn't really do anything to focus on Flurry Heart herself, which didn't make her interesting to me. I hoped there would be an episode sometime in the future that would give us a chance to see Flurry Heart simply interacting with the characters. And I admit this setup is an interesting way to do it, letting her spend time with her aunt. Of course she gets into trouble, and she does get in the way of Twilight's schedule, which is the source of conflict for this episode. But this time it has more of a point to it. The theme of the episode is Twilight trying to babysit her niece while multitasking with the errands that she needs to get done. The things they do with the setup are fairly sound, and the story is paced out evenly. The subplot with Cadance and Shining Armor doesn't distract from what Twilight is going through, and the transitions between them are fairly well timed. Plus, it ties into the episode's ending, so the two storylines feel more related. Even the supposed filler of Twilight having fun and spending time with Flurry Heart in the beginning is important to the story, as it establishes a connection between the two before the conflict escalates. It has a nice bit of humor, and the distorted music helps to make it more effective. And by giving Twilight something to do besides just babysitting Flurry Heart, it allows the episode to feel different from other episodes of this type in a very welcome way. It still focuses on Twilight or Spike watching over the baby, and it thankfully doesn't delve into any gross stuff. And the characters are presented nicely. Twilight is very enthusiastic and cheerful over spending time with her niece, but she also feels overwhelmed and stressed over her schedule being held off and stalled. She does manage to work around the issue by finding ways to implement her babysitting into the errands that she has to run. She turns shopping into a game for her, and she learns her mistake from not making sure that Flurry Heart was being watched while she was talking to someone, and assigns Spike to watch over her while she's busy. She even attempts to use her whammy as a means to keep her occupied so that she can finish her task. The thing is that she underestimates the situation that she's placed herself in, and she learns that this type of multitasking may not be best suited for her. While it is implied, it doesn't seem to be the main message this episode is going for. Learning about multitasking would have made a much more interesting lesson for her to learn than the whole spending quality time with your family thing, which should already be common knowledge to her. Spike is also presented well with his sense of sarcasm as Twilight becomes distracted by her time with Flurry Heart. He seems very focused and helps Twilight stay on task, which not only fits his role as an assistant, but also makes him feel like more of a supervisor, which is an interesting role for him to take on. And his suggestion of simply canceling the meeting at the hospital shows that he recognizes how difficult this multitasking is for Twilight, and offers her an option that can ease her stress. Plus, he shows an imaginative spirit with his fascination for a book on a heroic dragon and acting it out for the kids at the hospital. Cadance and Shining Armor are personalized much more than they usually are in this episode by showing how their parenthood can have a toll on them while still showing how much it means to them. The way they stumble on their sentences and their exhausted facial expression shows how overwhelming Flurry Heart can be, and they still show a patient nature about it. Even then, the stress still gets to them, and it gives them the idea that they need need someone to watch Flurry Heart while they get some time to themselves. There's nothing really wrong with that, as every parent needs time away from their kids, especially if it's to regain their momentum from the stress of watching over a baby. Over time, they are reminded of Flurry Heart, and they just can't bring themselves to stay away, and it's presented in a fairly heartwarming way. And it's even accompanied by an interesting little allegory by Spearhead on how his art spoke to them, reminding them of their favorite memories of their daughter. And you know what? Flurry Heart was a lot of fun to watch in this episode. She gets a chance to work off of some of the other characters in a way that doesn't feel forced. She has a nice bond with Twilight and even has some silly interactions with the Cake Twins. And she presents more personality, which makes watching her more fun and helps her feel more interactive with the cast. She's playful and oblivious, but also fussy and seeking attention. She can be easily scared or feel panic if something goes wrong. She might try to fix something, but due to being a baby, she just doesn't know the right way to do it. She also has a reasonable awareness of her surroundings, which makes sense to me considering that the show has a history of showing that its infants can have a higher sense of sentience. The episode puts great care into showing us that Flurry Heart can be a fun character to hang around with while still knowing how to make her act like a real baby. Her presence in the episode feels more fitting since they do more with her than simply causing trouble for the other characters. So it's easier to feel invested in Twilight trying to bond with her, but not knowing how to multitask properly in order to do it. Although I will admit this episode has several hints of writing that just feel very awkward and out of place. For example, Shining Armor and Cadence just show up out of nowhere expecting Twilight to babysit their daughter without any warning and with no sign that they were thinking ahead of this. They didn't try to call Twilight ahead of time or try to schedule anything or think about the possibility that she might have been busy doing something. And the timing of their arrival feels far too perfect to feel like anything other than an excuse to start up the conflict. And secondly, if the kids just have some kind of chicken pox, why are they staying at a hospital? I understand setting up an appointment for a checkup, but all of them are there at the same time. I highly doubt that they all had an appointment scheduled around the same time, let alone the same day. They must have had the pox for a while if this happened during picture day, so why didn't they just stay home if they were sick? They don't really make it clear if it was part of a field trip or how severe this horsey hives thing is, so it feels weird to have all of these kids set into a hospital. And this brief speech on how Twilight criticizes herself for being a bad aunt doesn't really add up. She wasn't doing anything wrong for the situation she was placed in, and she was trying to get an important errand run done before it was overdue. Is it because she got upset with Flurry Heart? Because she was reasonably telling Flurry Heart how inappropriate it was to be reckless with her powers over a toy snail. She says she wasn't paying attention to her when all Flurry Heart wanted was to play, which is dumb because she was clearly busy doing something before Cadence and Shining Armor even showed up. Even then, nothing about what happened really suggests she was being a bad aunt since she was putting effort into taking care of her. She played with her, kept her occupied, and even tried to feed her. I guess you could say she was bad at managing her time with Flurry Heart, but that doesn't really make her a bad aunt, at least not in the way that she was saying it. Still, this was a fairly nice slice of life kind of episode that puts more insight into Twilight's relationship with her niece, as well as a few other things. A Flurry of Emotions was a satisfying episode with a good story and some fun character interactions. It just might be an episode that I'll see again sometime soon. MisAnthro Pony, over and out.